Hi, good evening, good morning, good night, sleep well, have a nice day, whichever one fits best for you watching this video right now. This is Wackaflcka with yet another video explaining things in League of Legends, or something like that. And today, I have to do some weird stuff as I'm trying to talk. Okay, so I'm going to be explaining runes today for 98 Tech or Twitch tank, so to speak. And I'm gonna be going through which runes are optimal, which ones I think are best, and which ones are similar, and just give you my thoughts on most of the runes for this build. Okay. But first, thank you so much for the people that have been going to other videos, watching them on 98 Tech, from Saber, Ankle Spanking, Vapora Dark, and saying that Wackaflcka is the one that made the build. It means a lot to me to have people fight for that recognition that it's not Koreans. I mean, Vet IRL would have been fine, but again, like, people putting the time and effort into saying that it's Wackaflcka, I really appreciate that, and it means a lot. So yeah, thank you. And also, we're about to hit 200 subscribers on YouTube, so that's fucking huge, and that's fucking crazy as well. That's like, I'm like soon holding like huge conference meeting every time I make a YouTube video, so that's kind of fucking insane. But yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna get into the video now before I waste any more of your precious time, okay? So, first off, this is 98 tech, a little bit tanky, withstand, mixed damage, on hit, all this kind of shit, okay? So what you're gonna be looking for the most is attack speed and survivability, okay? And things like Hail Blades, saying it's an option, nah, it's not really. It's 3 attacks. It's good for early game, for AP or AD, okay? It's good for jungling early game. But as an overall rune for this build, nah. Nah. Okay. PTA, Saber played that. Again, good early game. It's good into the game as well if you want to kill people. The true damage is pretty nice, right? So, I mean, again, I wouldn't recommend it as my personal choice, but it's okay. It's not the best, but you still get access to the rest of the precision tree, okay? So that's kind of like what you're aiming for here. But I would go for lethal tempo all the time, even when jungling. I mean, it's a bit awkward to get used to, but again, I have success with this in jungle, so it's definitely viable, and it's my recommendation, okay? For both ADC and jungle. Because you have Witsend, Panic Hydra, and all these on-hit effects that you want to, like, get the most use out of it, and how you do that is with attack speed, so lethal tempo is the way to go here. Jungling, you go Triumph, you don't need the mana regen, you get regen in the jungle. Presence of Mind, it's a no-brainer for everything else. Mid lane, top lane, ADC, support, like anything that doesn't have to do with jungling, you go Presence of Mind. Secondary runes, or third, Alacrity is my general recommendation. You can try Triumph or Legend Tenacity against things with a lot of CC, like Leona and these kind of things. It's gonna help out, but again, like, this is just something you can try yourself. It's definitely worth trying, and it's viable. But again, Alacrity is my recommendation here. Bloodline is also viable for sure, but it's very slow in stacking up, and it doesn't like. It's one of the slower stacking runes. It's definitely good, but I wouldn't recommend. I mean, I wouldn't really recommend over Alacrity, especially for this. So Alacrity is where you would go there. Bloodline is good for sure, but it stacks up very slowly, and you can gain lifesteal from other things, and usually are playing with Lulu, Yumi, and stuff like that. So yeah. But again, you can go Bloodline, but it's just not as good because you might not get as much stack speed, so Alacrity is going to help you get that. Instead, as you are going Witsend, maybe Tab Ice or Merc Threads, right? So you're not going to have as much attack speed as you normally would, so Alacrity is generally where I would go here. Cryptogra, cut down. You can't really go this because you have a lot of HP yourself. Sometimes you'll end up getting more HP than your tank, so yeah. Last Stand, Nah. So Kuptagra. So basically, this is your standard ADC build or rune selection for 90 attack and most other ones as well. Secondary runes, most common one. Taste the Blood, Ultimate Hunter. This is good for lane. Gets your ultimate back. It's the general recommendation as well. I saw people in the skill cap video were recommending Ravenous Hunter, but it's not good. It's suboptimal. It's very scuffed. Even for AP, you're not getting that much healing from this, so just it's a bait rune, and the people that said this is not really sure as to how the game works. Okay, I mean you're free to try it, but again you can't really even see the healing anymore. So to have an accurate like comparison as to how much healing it's done, it's gonna take a lot of time in games for you to compare it in your stats. So this is general one. If you're jungling, I would recommend Sudden Impact, and you can also Sudden Impact, and then you can also go Relentless Hunter for the movement speed. But this is generally what I go if I'm jungling. If I'm going with the Domination Tree, Domination Tree is very good overall, and a very safe choice regardless of what you do. But if it's like more, it's more like the man in the middle, kind of like the middle option here, like where you don't really want to put too much thought into everything, but still get as much as possible from every single game. So then this is a very good baseline for every single game, and there's not much error or mistakes you can do from picking this. So you are never going to go wrong with going these runes regardless, but there are obviously other runes that you should definitely give a try, so that's what I'm going to get into as well. Generally, Taste Blood will do anything from 700 to 2000 healing per game. It's obviously got a cooldown. The more, like, it generally heals more when you're playing AP. It's got a 20-second cooldown. So, overall, the healing is mostly for laning phase. It's not going to be that noticeable outside of laning phase, although it's still going to heal you for quite a lot, but it's not going to be as noticeable as it would seem after the game, as it will say you've done 700, as I said, to 2000, but again, it's not really something you think about after the laning phase, although it still heals for quite a decent amount, okay? Second one is one that was more used in Season 9, Absolute Focus Gathering Storm. Definitely one of the highest damage ones, but it's definitely not something I would recommend. So just generally, I haven't done that much playing around with the Sorcery Free, but I wouldn't really recommend it unless you are trying something fancy. I've been trying Celerity and Gathering Storm, but I don't have enough of an idea of this, and I just don't see it being the best option for 90 attack at least, so Sorcery Free, there's not really much to do here. And then the Resolve Tree. I've been playing a lot of games recently trying this out, and I definitely think it's worth trying. First line here, Shield Bash is definitely good when playing with the Lulu, but the problem is that you want access to these two here. So unless you're actually going Resolve first, you're not going to get access to Shield Bash, because the other ones here are better. So first off, I'll go from the right. I've been trying bow plating against Draven. It's definitely decent, and it's something I would recommend you guys to try as well when playing against Draven. Go bone plating, and then I'll talk more about the runes below after. After laning phase, again, not going to be as noticeable, but still in laning phase is going to help you quite a lot against Draven especially. Second wind, I've been trying this against Syra with Doran Shield. Definitely helps you with the sustain, but again, mostly laning phase, not going to give you that much value later. So the general rune that I would recommend in this tree is Conditioning. And the reason for this is that, because of the equilibrium curve that I spoke of earlier, is that when you get Titanic Hydra and maybe Black Cleaver, you're going to get a lot of HP but no armor, right? So you will have a lot of HP but no resistances. So your HP is going to be a lot worse than what it could be if you had more armor and magic resist, because of something, again, as I mentioned in my last video, there's something called the equilibrium curve, and feel free to look it up. You can just Google, or I'll even post the link below. Equilibrium curve for League of Legends. It's basically how much MR and HP you need, or armor, to make each of them the most effective at X amount, okay? So as an example, this isn't accurate, but you have 1000 HP, and if you get 100 armor, then that HP is going to be equal of 2000 HP, right? But then when you have 2000 armor, then it's only going to be 3k, but then you get 150 armor, then first an example, then the HP will technically be 3000 instead. So like this is like really mathematics, you know, like mathematic, yeah, you know. So like this is what I would recommend. 5% armor as well, or magic resist after 12 minutes. So your wits end, crossfire, gauntlet, all these other things are going to add up and give you additional armor and MR as well, which is going to be good against champions like Kiana and Draven after you leave laning phase. So it's going to help you prevent from getting bursted. And this is probably one of the better runes in the game, because the goal value that you get from this is that you get, normally when laning phase ends at 12 minutes, you end up with 15 armor and 15 MR already, right? And if you look at gold efficiency stats, armor, 10 armor is worth 300 gold, okay? So after 12 minutes, this rune is already giving you close to 450 gold worth of stats in armor. And then it also gives you roughly the same amount of MR, right? So at that point, you are close to like 900 gold worth of like stats, right? From this one item here, or like rune. So this is like 900 gold worth of like defensive stats after 12 minutes, which is huge. Or like maybe 800 or something. I'm not gonna, like, you can't quote me exactly on this. But, it's definitely a very, very underrated rune in general, especially for this kind of build. Okay, because Magic Mental gives 25 MR, and that's worth 450 gold, and then you get 15, so you're looking at around 600 gold worth of stats here from this rune alone. Second one, this one I really wouldn't go into, so it's either Revitalize Overgrowth. Overgrowth in general will leave you with anything between 150 to 300 HP at all times. Once you are getting a bit into the game and you are getting some HP. So this rune is going to be very good. But the problem with this rune in comparison to Revitalize is that if you have 2000 HP or you have 5000 HP, if you are at 500 HP, the amount of HP you have had as max HP is not going to matter. So this is more like preventing you from getting bursted, or where healing or shielding isn't going to be as good. So in the sense that you're playing without a Yuumi or Lulu, then you would obviously go Overgrowth instead. But if you're playing with Yuumi, Lulu, Nami, Soraka, I would definitely go Revitalize. But in general, if you are going Resolve Tree without an Enchanter, then you are always going to go Overgrowth. And other champions that's good against is Pyke, because Revitalize is not going to be as good, because if you have a champion that shields you, then it doesn't matter if you get 500% increased shield or a 50,000 shield, it doesn't matter like how big the shield is, because once you're below the HP threshold for him to execute, you're going to die. So then you want to have as much HP as possible regardless. So if I'm playing with an Enchanter, you know, then I'm gonna pick Overgrowth if I'm against Pyke. Purely because of that. But in other cases, if I see that they don't have someone that can build Serpent as an example, then I will go Revitalize instead. If I'm playing with Yuumi or Lulu, the healing reduction is fine still, because the shield will still benefit you early game also. And this rune is also going to provide you with anything from, with an Enchanter in mind, not by yourself, then it's probably going to only give you like 300 healing extra after a 25-minute long game. But if you're playing with Lulu or Yuumi, and you have this rune, you are going to be looking at anything from 1000 to 2000, 3000 extra healing and shielding, okay? So Revitalize is going to be better than Taste the Blood in the long run with Revitalize, okay? Which is why I've been going Resolve Tree lately as well, just trying it out, seeing the values, and comparing it with Taste the Blood. It's more later into the game. Taste the Blood is obviously better for the early game, but if you are wanting to become like a lot more tanky and survivability into the game because you are comfortable with the laning phase and you don't feel you need that much help anymore, then Resolve Tree is generally better. The only problem is that Domination has Ultima Hana, which is the reason why you go Domination secondary, because this rune is insane. But if you can play without it, then Resolve Tree is something I would recommend. And try out if you want to get a bit more tanky at least, because as again I said, HP, you need more armor, MR, which then conditioning becomes the answer to. So generally this or this here is what your rune page would look like, depending on what you're against. I'm now trying to think if I left something out here. I don't think I did. But Overgrowth is mostly good when you don't have healing or shielding, because then the HP is going to matter against Burst. And Serpent and stuff like that, then it's going to also make Overgrowth more valuable. The Revitalize is probably going to be better in most cases when you're playing with an Enchanter, unless you're against someone like Pike. But still, these are both two viable options, and runes that I would recommend trying with 98 tech. As you're going to become a lot more tanky, or not a lot, but it's going to be noticeable at least. Especially conditioning. It feels like a really, really nice rune, okay? So I would definitely recommend trying this one out at least, and giving both of these a chance and see how much HP you can get. In general, you get around 150 to 200 extra HP from Overgrowth. So yeah. Inspiration again, as sorcery, I think it's a bait tree. The boots are nice, cookies are fine. But you should learn to lane without cookies. I don't struggle laning. And I don't need cookies, and I don't think anyone else should either. Futures Market is okay. But in general, I don't think these runes are as good as the Domination Tree or the Resolve Tree, okay? So those are the runes that I would look into going, and the ones that I would recommend to others, because I'm not going to recommend these ones. The boots are good for sure. You get free boots, that's 300 gold worth of stats, and then you get the extra MS, but again, this is at least 600-700 gold after 12 minutes of stats, right? On paper at least. So that's just my thoughts on the runes. Just definitely try this one out. Conditioning, it's huge. It's really nice, okay? And it's definitely noticeable against tanks. Against squishier targets and combs, then, or like not as bursty ones, like without Kiana and Diana, Evelyn, like those are the champions that I really am wanting to go this Resolve Tree to get that extra MR. Because there aren't a lot of items that provide MR that have nice stats. So getting MR this season is actually a bit more difficult as opposed to other ones, especially for tanks as well, because you had other items before that were a lot better for tanks to buy. So conditioning is a really nice rune to just get that extra MR without sacrificing too much. That's my recommendations and thoughts on this in general. Domination, nah, no, don't. Like, it's troll. Lethal tempo is the way to go. Wits End, Titanic Hydra, boom, 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 1000 auto attacks, you know, shit like that. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a nice night. Peace.